We're standing by so we can
It's hard for me.
record and stream the meeting.
I have to sit still and not talk. I don't know how to do that. I know. I'm not doing a good job at all.
Okay, now we can call the meeting to order at 7:06. This is a regular governing board meeting of the Lammersville Unified School District Board of Education. Today is February 17th. I will now call Bethany School to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would kindly introduce yourself before you lead the pledge.
May I just introduce all six?
Please.
Would that be okay? All right. So I will start with Maggie, our ASB president, and then we have Sakina, Ashley, Caitlin, Akshata, and Ria. And from here, it's all them.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If you would hold on just a moment, roll call, please.
Matthew Balzerini.
Here.
Colin Clements.
Here.
Sharon Lampel.
Here.
Shane Nielsen.
Here.
David Pombo.
Here.
Samantha DeTiberis.
Here.
Thank you. And now Bethany's presentation. Yeah.
See squads. They're not only good
Oh, I
for
didn't. And ladies and gentlemen, at this time, if you'd please silence your cell phones, just so we don't have any interruptions, would be appreciated.
Did that. I did. Okay.
Hello, as Miss Wingo introduced me, my name is Maggie Fontenot, and I am the ASB president. Today we have compiled a presentation for you on some of Bethany's events from this year.
One of the exciting activities ASB plans at Bethany is College Week. During College Week, students are encouraged to participate in the dress-up days. Every classroom has t-shirts made by students decorated with the logo of the college they want to go to.
Can you guys please step up to the microphone so everyone can hear you and we can hear it on the streaming? Thank you. There you go.
At Bethany, Science Night is a tradition. There, we display all our science boards and do many scientific experiments. Also, our boards get judged to see who goes to County Science Fair. Science Fair Night is a night where we eat, do experiments, win prizes, and have fun.
Bethany's basketball teams continue to improve and show off their skills. All 4 teams currently remain undefeated.
Very nice.
Students have been working hard and preparing for CAASPP testing, which will take place in April. On April 7th to April 9th, 2016, 12 ASB students will be traveling to Ontario, California for the annual CAASPP Leadership Conference. This year, Maggie Fontenot applied for the Northern California Freshman Director. Good luck, Maggie!
We are also proud to announce that Bethany has been running for the Outstanding Leadership Award at CAASPP this year. Thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation.
Thank you very much, ladies, and good luck at Castle.
Yes, thank
So
you.
are
Thank
all
you.
of you participating in Castle? Everyone that was up there? Enjoy.
Have a good time.
And
Monitors are not on.
Just there's a
very
button on
left.
the top.
And ladies, if you'd like to head out, you're more than welcome, or you can stay. It's up to you.
Thanks, Maggie.
We're sorry you're so shy.
Approval and/or corrections of the agenda.
Yes, there's one. On action item C, the dates that were posted June 1st through June 28th need to change to June 6th to July 1st. That's it.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports. Item A, facilities use.
Mr. Pombo?
Yeah, I'm
Getting your notes.
Well, I'll start with an apology that I was unable to make it to last night's meeting for the Facilities Use Committee. Unfortunately, I had other commitments, so. But I thank Mr. Pombo for his upcoming report.
It'll be here in a minute, I promise. I'm technologically challenged and I'm in a little bit of a hurry. Perhaps we can skip me and go to the next one.
Sure. Item B, District Advisory Committee. The next meeting is coming up next week. Correct.
Monday, February 29th at 6:30.
And you got the message I won't be there?
Yes.
Thank you. Item C, DLAC.
The DLEC has not met since our last board meeting.
Okay.
Do you have
The
a
next
date?
meeting is Wednesday, March 9th at
Okay.
6:30.
Thank you.
Item D, Gates, Arts, Music.
The Gate Committee had its meeting a couple of weeks ago. It was, I want to say, pretty well attended, but it was my first meeting, so I can't say for sure. And despite some tangential conversation that I don't necessarily related to the program, we kind of got off of a couple of things that were going to be on the agenda, which includes the identification process and the application process for the GATE program. Overall, though, I thought it was a really good conversation about trying to look at and recognize the needs for STEM, STEAM, and additional education. We discussed a lot about the music program as well. But really, I would just want to encourage parents to come and participate, because one of the things that came up is actually going to be a discussion item later on the agenda that one of the parents brought as an idea with regards to funding sources and trying to create a committee to help pursue additional funding sources. So I hope we can discuss that later. And that came up as part of the conversation that we had. So like I say, overall, it was a kind of all over the place meeting, but I'm hoping that we can start to get some structure and see the process for identification and planning for GATE students moving forward. And we have our next meeting scheduled for Thursday, March 3rd at 6:30 here in this room. So I hope to see lots of folks there. Did I miss anything, Ms. Sherburne?
Safety and crisis response. Our committee met today. It was very productive. We talked about checked up on all the sites as far as preparedness. Kevin Seamus is in progress with updating the Safe Schools plan. And we also talked about our large-scale drill that's going to be conducted in March at the high school. What's the exact date? March 16th at noon. So I know a lot of parents are going to be solicited to participate in the exercise, and we'll have a lot more information forthcoming. Item F, wellness.
At the Wellness Committee meeting last week, I believe, Principal Yeager gave a detailed account of the measures that were taken at Altamont School to deal with the recent water outage. All sites are continue to be working with the Caught Eating Good program. We also discussed the DUI prevention program that our 8th graders attend. The upcoming Farmers Market sponsored by Taylor Farms, which is the week of March 21st. The upcoming health fair that's being held in conjunction with the district recruitment fair on February 20th. And the committee continues to work on the district wellness plan. Facilities Use Committee. Principal Faubert was there and gave a brief overview of track use by students and how the public might be accommodated in using the facility. The committee, after his overview, we discussed the fact that the track and field are heavily used by students, and Mr. Faubert is going to come up with a proposal that, as far as what public access might fit into the schedule of teams and practices and so forth. Food Services Director Hill was present and spoke about the kitchen use on our campuses and some of the issues that are come along with outside use of our kitchens. The committee discussed not allowing any more kitchen use at the high school until the warranty on the equipment at the high school is up, which is this summer, and we will bring that back on a future agenda. We also discussed including the quad on the facilities use schedule. This will come back on a future agenda as well. And we discussed issues of expired insurance certificates, and staff is working on solutions to that. Expired insurance certificates of users of our facilities. And that's my report.
We want to talk about the tour as well.
Sure, or you could.
Yeah, because we also had an opportunity, Mr. Pombo and I, to tour Mountain House High School with regards to the quad and additional usage, and identified what I think the two of us and potentially some of the folks in the community might see as future issues with regards to use of our outdoor facilities. And the biggest issue we've got right now is no matter what we were to try to rent out or allow for exterior facilities that doesn't include the track, there's no outdoor restrooms. There's no access to outdoor restrooms. And a concern of mine is that includes for anyone who might attend a baseball or a softball game. So I think it's incumbent upon us as a board to sit down when we look at whatever future plans may be developed later or at all with regards to the additional buildings that may come, that we may need to look to get some redesign to try to get some exterior access to restrooms. Because again, if you think about it, if you're at a baseball or softball game and you can be there for 2.5 hours and there's no restrooms, that could be a problem. So, and again, if we were to rent the quad out, we'd have to find a way to get access to a building to allow use for a restroom unless it's just a brief usage. And that all started to get into areas that were just untenable. So given the locations of other buildings that have to be completed, that I think the committee is going to talk about, but I don't know what the committee can do about that. I think it's more about a board discussion of the whatever plans we have, maybe looking to get some redesign for that kind of stuff. So
Very good, thank you. Governing board reports, Samantha?
I do not have a governing board report tonight.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Clemens?
Most of my discussion items for tonight are on the agenda somewhere, so I'll speak to them on
Very good.
point.
Trustee Pombo?
As mentioned, I attended the Wellness Committee and Facilities Use Committee meetings since our last board meeting. I also attended science fairs at Lammersville, Bethany, Cuesta, and Wickland, and saw some very impressive scientific displays by our students. I was also able to attend DARE graduations at both Cuesta and Bethany. My report.
Trustee Lampel?
Okay, can you bring up that picture, Noel? So last month, I mentioned this amazing cake made by Director Hill that was auctioned off at the crab feed. Can it be displayed? Yeah. Okay.
sideways. It won't rotate.
So everybody turn your head sideways.
Yeah. So while that's
incredible
coming
or
up,
what?
Is that amazing? And that cake sold for, I think, $600, if I'm correct?
Why are you looking at me?
I don't know.
Yes, $600.
Absolutely amazing. I could not let that go unnoticed, even though the crab feed was a while ago. That was very impressive. I participated in Masters in Governance class number 4, and that is the HR class. And being in HR for 12 years, I learned some stuff. These classes are amazing. They are so well thought out and of such high quality. You know, who cannot learn something from Ron Bennett? So, so that's my report.
Trustee Nielsen?
I do have a lot of the stuff that's on the agenda for later tonight, in addition to attending the gate committee and the walk around at the high school. I just wanted to take this opportunity to give a shout out to our Mountain House Mustang girls basketball team for a group of players that have been together less than a couple of years, because the school is only, 2 years old now. to take second place in a league as competitive as it is. And I believe the team is comprised of 8 players, which if you know basketball much, that is not a very deep team. It doesn't give you much opportunity for good practices and that kind of stuff. The coach and the players have done an amazing job, and they're out to bring home the first league championship for our Mountain House High School. And I want to wish them all well, and again, congratulate the coach and the players on a fantastic season.
Not only are there only 8 of them, but they're almost entirely underclassmen as well.
For my report, it's primarily CSBA stuff. I've been very active in Sacramento. I spent January 29th, 30th, and 31st at the board meeting. We were talking legislation. We were talking about some of the problems that's plaguing education, and it's going to be a big year for CSBA. They're definitely going to make themselves known. I had very lengthy conversations with some of our lobbyists and expressed some of the issues that our district faces with LCFF as far as our teachers are concerned. And also, of course, the construction bond. Lengthy discussion. Our executive, he's the assistant executive director of governmental relations, wants me to take a trip up there and talk to him about going to see the governor and talk about our school specifically and how our mitigation agreement is written and how the state bond is needed for our community. So also as a reminder, March 15th, Legislative Action Day, I have appointments with both our Assemblywoman and our Senate legislator in Sacramento. I'll be up there talking with them, and I'll bring back any good news. Receiving a public comment. I do have one card for this item. Amanda Cornier.
Okay, so what do I do? Do I have to press something first? Or?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm here to discuss and propose an opportunity for you, the Lammersville School District Board. I think we can all agree that high-stakes testing has hijacked the standards. Because of this, though, we now live in a very achievement-obsessed culture, which has caused negative physical, mental, and emotional effects in our children. It's concerning when the CDC is investigating in nearby districts the number of suicides believed to be linked with high pressure in the school systems. So this would kind of be directly related to maybe the wellness committee and making sure that we are keeping our children healthy, both mentally as well as physically. Unfortunately, I do see a little bit in this district, the unnecessary pressure here. And it worries me because I think that childhood should not be about testing and homework and constant academic competition. It should be about creativity, experimentation, play, critical thinking, and exploration. And we heard about all of this in the GATE committee meeting, and I was really, really pleased and excited to hear about the district and the focus there. So thank you. That's great. Now, I know everyone agrees with me about that point in this room, but I just don't understand why we still have a testing-obsessed mindset here in this district if we really want to be innovative and change and at the forefront of education. We can blame it on the law for high-pressure testing. We can blame it on budget cuts for this, but it's up to us to bring back the arts, music, and quality curriculum our students deserve, and to step away from programs which directly support this testing-obsessed culture, while many of these fail to engage, differentiate, or inspire our students, such as Compass Learning. I know there are various, opinions about Compass Learning, but truly I think it costs too much money. Mandating minutes the teachers use on Compass Learning, I don't think is great or valuable, and I think it does put too much pressure on the students and the teachers. So I want you to think of this. What if we as a district put more value on personal growth rather than test scores? What if we focused on truly differentiating for our students by giving them enriching curriculum void of any connection to testing? What if we or the Wellness Committee took action to make sure our teachers and students were happy, inspired, and healthy? We cannot wait for the government to change or school budgets to improve, but we can, as a community, reclaim a healthy and enriching childhood for our kids. So with that said, I propose to you, Lammersville School District Board, to host a screening of the documentaries Race to Nowhere and Beyond Measure. They cover testing, student health, homework load, parent pressure, overscheduling, and best teaching practices. They're all covered in these documentaries. It would be a great opportunity for you to lead our community by educating all of us about what we can do to transform education here in Mountain House. Something to think about.
Thank you for your comments, and I would encourage you to speak to Trustee Pombo as he sits on the Wellness Committee, and maybe we
Exactly.
can get some of those ideas at the committee level and bring back some recommendations to the board.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's my umbrella.
Consent items for consideration. We have item A is the approval of the governing board meeting minutes from February 3rd. Item B, budget revision warrants. Item C, approval of the 2015-16 hires. Item D, acceptance of resignation. And item E, approval of the updated 2015-16 fundraisers. Would anyone like to pull any of these items for discussion?
I move we approve the consent items in total.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I would like to welcome Kim Hicks, our newest instructional aide, to the Lammersville family.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome, Kim. Thank you. District administrative reports. Item A, superintendent's report.
Before I call Director Sherburne up here, she has a short presentation on our curriculum committee update. I do want to let the board know and the community know this isn't just a curriculum committee update in the traditional sense of we have this meeting and here we're going to tell you about it. The community needs to know that this is in response to a board workshop in October, to concerns about the pressures that Amanda just spoke to, concerns about the pressures with Common Core, all of the change that's going on, that a conversation was started. The reaction to the concerns was to form a committee and to observe and look at what are best products that are coming out, including stuff that came out as recently as December. But when people are concerned, anxiety is high, the best thing you can do is put people in a room and solve problems. But that's how you address morale as well. Is we heard you, we follow through, and the community needs to understand that leadership started with the board, willing to do a community workshop, trickled down to the district site and administration, along with the Teachers Association and leaders at each school site who are teachers. And Director Sherburne is giving a curriculum committee update, but this is also, I want the community and the board to know that this is also a morale-boosting exercise, which is if there's a significant concern, this district cares, this board cares, the community cares, teachers care, and this is how we're taking care of business for our kids. So I'd like to introduce Director Sherburne to present our latest update.
Good evening, trustees, Superintendent Nicholas. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to be here and share with you the great work that's been going on with the curriculum committee. I'll share with you that we have a diverse committee with 36 plus teachers on that committee representing every site and representing every grade level across the district, including also representing special ed in the primary ranges and the intermediate ranges as well. So it's a great committee. We've had really positive participation and really good energy, and I appreciate their dedication a lot. So this is a room you can see this panoramic shot, so it looks a little bit wonky on there, to get in all of the curriculum that we have brought in from publishers. We're looking at the English Language Arts ELD components right now, primarily because we have new adoption materials that have just come out from the state of California. And we are anxiously looking through those materials right now. So this was a preliminary picture set up of pulling in the materials from the publishers. We have 3 different publishers and over 5 different programs looking at it in the K-5 to K-6 ranges and then 6-8 ranges to look at those programs. So the first thing that we did is we started with becoming an informed consumer and why that is really important. And our teachers on the committee, we had an open meeting on the 25th that was after school that anyone was invited to come to. And we started talking about what the process would be about and why it was important that we become informed consumers. And then we continued that work on full day releases with the curriculum committee members. members. So we talked about the key shifts and the key themes in ELA and ELD. We looked at the framework chapter 2, which is an overview of the framework, and you can see the visual graphic there of the five key themes and the integration of ELD within ELA, which is the core shift in this framework adoption. We looked at chapter 8, which is on assessment, and chapter 10, which is looking at the 21st century learning shifts. And then the grade level members looked at their specific grade level content as well. And you can see the pictures there of the committee hard at work. The next step as part of February 3rd and 5th, because they're full day releases, we have split into groups of 4th through 8th grade working together and kindergarten through 3rd grade working together. So the next steps looking at it were to look at the district lens. And so we looked at the LCAP plan and what the implications were within the LCAP to adopting a curriculum. And we looked at the data charts to see what are the needs of the students that we have here and how does that align with our vision. And then again, what are the implications for curriculum adoption? So we knew what we were looking for. And that would be a snapshot of a composite data just to give you an idea of walking them through and really saying, so what does this tell us? What do the different subpopulations look like? What do we need to really look for to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all students, including our English learners, our long-term English learners, our special ed population, and our African American populations in particular, because we have data supporting that we're underserving those populations. And once we spent our time going through that, we invited publishers in and had publisher presentations on February 11th and 16th. On the 11th, we had Houghton Mifflin come. They shared their Journeys collection, which is for kindergarten through 6th grade, and then their Collections program, which is for 6th through 8th grade. So 6th grade could straddle both programs, looking at what they would like to do. Following that, we also looked at Benchmark Education's program, which is a K-6 program, and Macmillan's 2 programs. They have a Wonders program that is K-5 or K-6, and then they have a Study Sync program, which is a 6-8 program. So we had presentations on all of that. You can see it was a well-attended event. Again, they were after school. They were available for anyone to come, but the curriculum committee members especially were asked to be there and hear directly from the publishers. So we finished that up, and while they were late afternoons and a lot of information, our teachers really, you could see from the smiles on their faces, they really were anxious and excited to be looking through the materials. They had amazing questions, especially for thinking that late in the afternoon. They really were very focused on critical strategic components. You could tell that they had taken the work we had done in setting the district lens and looking at the framework very seriously, because they had great questions. So we dug in and we started with that today, diving deep into it. We're using the components and tools that are provided in the CDE Adoption Toolkit to help guide our analysis of the publishers' programs. And we had the 4th through 8th grade teachers working on it today. And tomorrow we'll finish up with the kindergarten through 3rd grade. It's likely we're going to need a little more time next week because they are being so thorough and looking through the lenses there. We're looking at it at layers. So they start off looking at a big picture of all the components that are included in the programs. Then they go a layer deeper and they look at the integration of the 4 strands of reading, writing, speaking, and listening, including the integrated ELD and the designated ELD components that are required. And then they go in and they trace individual standards throughout units and weekly lessons to see how those standards build and integrate. They look at the organization of it, and then they look at all of the components that are ancillary to the materials with the assessments, the universal access, the strategic intervention components, the teacher planning support that is in there, and all of those pieces. So walking through that is quite a long day. We started off today, and I warned the teachers right up front. I said, today is going to feel like you finished your SATs by the time we got done. And they were pretty wiped by about 2 o'clock, and nevertheless, they still persevered, and we had really good conversations. So coming up with that, we're going to have a parent meeting next week as well, so that we can share some information from the process that's in a really parent-friendly format, as well as allow them time to look at the materials and provide some input about their thoughts and ask any questions that they might have. Hopefully by the end of all of that next week, we'll be able to make some determinations about what we'd like to pilot, 1 to 2 programs at most that we would be looking at piloting throughout April and May. And then making a recommendation in May whether or not we feel there's something that will adequately support the needs of our district and be a wise purchase, or that we need to continue to look further for additional programs. So we will make that recommendation in May. Assuming that we do choose to adopt a program and make that recommendation, then we would move forward with ordering and training and preparing to gear up for next year. So it's a really exciting time for us to be looking at where we're going and getting things moving. There are a lot of really nice components and additions that have been made to all of the programs that we've been looking at since the previous adoption 7 years ago, or when they came out with them, but the materials we have are even older than that. So anyways, it's been a really great time, and I can't state enough how much I appreciate the teachers that are working on this curriculum committee and how hard and thoughtful they're working.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Yes. Can you put the slide, that last slide back up, please? So I'm a finance guy, don't know anything about how curriculum adoption works. So we make a recommendation in May. I don't know what the lead time is for, we decide to order, we place the order. I don't know anything about the lead time, but I know it has to get in well before the next school year. Can you give me an idea what that time frame would be, like how this rest of the summer would play out, and when the teachers would actually be able to touch and feel the materials before the next school year starts?
So it would be a tight timeline for getting that order in there. What our hopes would be, though, is that we can get that in early May, and if possible, be able by the 3rd week of June-ish, if possible, have a voluntary time for teachers to come in. We would pay them, they'd have a little bit of training, get to look at the teacher additions and take those home early and spend time looking with them at them over the summer if that's something they are interested in. Nevertheless, interested or not, then at the very beginning of the school year when we have our professional development days, that time would be dedicated to staff development for all teachers and time for them to look at it and get started with planning.
But teachers who couldn't come that 3rd-ish week in June for training would be able to come in and pick up teachers' additions at other times during the summer, so they could get their hands on it.
I think that would be something that would be yet to be decided, but.
And we worked with the Teachers Association in our conversations around the calendar, and we added an additional PD day before school starts in anticipation of giving people time.
And it was great to hear that, that teachers are involved, engaged, smiling. I did hear, I heard rumors that there was some frustration in the beginning of the process. So we worked with the LTA and the teachers and resolved those issues, and everybody's on board with the process that we're working on right now.
I believe so. I'm having great participation even today, and as we were looking through the publisher presentations, people were recognizing the importance of the work that we did do looking at the framework. They're like, oh, now I really see why we needed to have this information and spend this time to help us with really analyzing this curriculum. And they're seeing gaps and holes, and they're seeing where publishers say that it's aligned to this standard or say that it has this component integrated, and you look at the label and then you look at what it is and you go, not really. And so the more informed you are, the more critically you can analyze those materials, and they're really seeing the benefit to that now.
Okay.
So your presentation made the balancing of the curriculum needs, the Common Core curriculum, the LCAP, the student data, and everything that you're looking at. It made it sound very simple, but I know it's not simple. So starting where you started, having been involved in work like this, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and they've really been troopers through it. We probably have 12 to 15 hours in already.
So I'd like to thank you, and I'd also like to thank the teachers for their participation in this committee, because not only are they released from their classroom to do this exhausting work all day long, but they put in hours of extra work to prepare for substitute lesson plans. So I'd like to personally thank the teachers for their participation. It's a lot of extra work.
Absolutely, I agree.
I would echo that. I have one last question. I have actually on my calendar a curriculum meeting for tomorrow. But
Yes.
I think that's an old.
Well, that's tomorrow is when we'll do a repeat of what we did today with the kindergarten through third grade group.
What time
So
is
we'll be
that?
working all day, 8 to 3:25.
Yeah, I have something on my thing for 6:30.
This meeting was moved to.
The parent meeting, perhaps.
There's a community CSD-sponsored town hall meeting that we switched the date for. Trustee Clements.
So, I actually want to come tomorrow and just observe. I wanted to do it sooner, but I had work issues that came up that I couldn't avoid. Is it okay if I come tomorrow?
Sure, we're in C126 over at the high school.
Thank you.
And I just want to ask, because the issues in the past with regards to curriculum have revolved largely around the, as you were mentioning briefly, the alignment to the Common Core or lack thereof of most of the materials that existed. And you had some independent reports on whether those alignments for the previous curriculum that was existing last year and how most of them failed to even come close. Do we have any more updated information on that? Again, I'm not trusting what the publishers say at all, because they have a vested interest in fudging the truth, I guess is a polite way to put it. But do we have anything independently to say they're getting closer, or some of these are more aligned?
Because these are brand newly released, so Ed Reports is the organization you're speaking of earlier, they are still in their process of reviewing it and making that independent
Do you know when that
analysis.
normally comes out?
The Department of Education has approved these, so they've said that you've basically met the basic criteria for these programs. But no, I haven't seen when Ed Reports expects that they'll have that finished.
Just curious. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the presentation, and
Thank you
please
very much.
also pass along my thanks to the committee. Sounds
I
like you guys
will.
are doing a lot of hard work. Thank
Yes, thank you very much.
Adoptions are never
you.
easy.
Anything further for your report?
No.
Item B, enrollment report.
Proud to say we have maintained our 4100 number. It's 4102.
Okay. Item C is the district maintenance and operations report. Ms. Kaiser.
Now that the rain has settled a little bit, we're going to go back to the gopher treatment over at Wickland, so that will start again. The carpet replacement at Altamont is slowly being taken care of on the weekends. Some of the rooms we have concerns about, they have already been brought to the attention of the contractor, but they want to wait till all of the floors are done before we approach them with the concerns that we have. I've noticed at least the warranties have decreased. They're not completely gone, but they are also slowly but surely taking care of those at both Altamont and the high school. And then I know some of these facility use events, even the school site events, are very large, and we're finding that we may need additional custodial assistance. The high school had a huge event for the NCPA. I heard there may have been over 1,000 people present at that event, and another one is scheduled for March 26th. These events, both school site and by organizations, the heavy use is really taking a toll on our custodian staff, and we're finding that the absences are increasing even during the regular school week. So I'm hoping the recruitment fair will bring in additional custodians that we may be calling to assist us with some of these events.
I'm going to tell you it was raining when I came in.
Yeah, pouring.
Thanks.
With regards to the Altamont, there was standing water inside some of the rooms, correct? Have we also had a mold abatement review of the rooms?
That's a good question.
I would ask that we get the builder out to have them take a look at that, because it is a bit of an issue. So.
Mr. President, I had one other thing I neglected to show. If I could have it just one more second back to the superintendent's report.
No.
This weekend, we're hosting a recruitment fair, and I want to commend Dr. Gill and her team, in particular Athena Rios, for her efforts. We have RSVPs of closing in on 400 people who are coming from outside of the area. One of the things that we're discovering is not a lot of people out there know where Mountain House is. So we decided to put ourselves on the map. We're doing some creative ideas using social media, some advertisements, but we had this video created that we'd like to share with the board and the community, but I think it captures the essence of who we are as a district and a community. I really think, and the videographer is a local parent, and she's amazing. Unfortunately, I cannot remember her name right now, but this is really good work. Shannon Johnson.
The Lammersville School District is over 140 years old. It started way back in rural Tracy, where it was a 1 K-8 school, and has since, with the addition of the Mountain House community, grown from hundreds to an ADA of almost 4,100. The school district is very, very important to this community. It's the heart and soul, and it's a lot of community involvement here.
When I was applying at different places, I researched Mountain House and I looked at their parades and the things that they do, you know, as a community, and I could tell it was a fun, even though it's a newer community, and it's kind of nice too being a newer community, it's also just has already a strong, they have a strong pride and community feel.
Teachers in the Lammersville Unified School District have access to cutting-edge technology. That allows them to instruct in a way that gets students ready for the jobs and for the education that they'll have in the future. And our goal as a district is really to provide a 21st century educational experience for our students.
Something we have to be mindful of as educators is that our children are coming to us now never having known a world without the internet or cell phones. So kindergartners come to us with an incredible amount of tech knowledge. It's our job to harness their technology knowledge and their unbridled enthusiasm for learning and create 21st century classrooms that capitalize on that and prepare these children for jobs that haven't even been determined yet.
Teachers are really looking for an innovative environment where they're really treated as professionals. This is the place to come. There's a lot of opportunities for teachers to receive professional development. In our daily schedule, teachers have an opportunity to collaborate with their department on a daily basis. That doesn't happen almost anywhere. So our departments spend 48 to 50 minutes a day with one another in addition to the prep periods that they have.
We are given the credit for being able to have the freedom to be innovative, to be creative, and develop creative ways to reach our students and get that excitement. It's exciting for me to be here because I get to teach kids what I know they need.
One of the real benefits of working in Mountain House is we have a wonderful parent and student community. The parents are incredibly generous and very supportive of educators. They are very engaged in the learning of their children, and those benefits come back to you as an educator at school in many, many positive ways.
The Lammersville Unified School District is yet again the highest performing school district in San Joaquin County. We are very proud of the hard work and efforts of our staff, parents, and our scholars each and every year to make this a reality.
One of the advantages of working with Lammersville Unified School District is our excellent facilities, our progressive mindset, our technology in 21st century classrooms, and salaries and benefits that are competitive throughout the area.
That was great.
That was very well done.
We didn't run that during the Super Bowl.
I understand those are inexpensive spots.
We did, but it was very fast. Like 4 million frames a second. It was really fast.
So I'd like to let Dr. Gill know that the reason why I missed the closed session before the regular meeting is because I was speaking to a class of brand spanking new teachers at UC Stanislaus and gave a plug for this weekend's recruitment fair. They didn't know where Delhi was, where I work, but they knew where Mountain House was. So I told them all about it and to go online.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentations. Action items. Item A, consider approval of updated 2015-16 intra-district transfer requests. Any staff report?
None.
Move to approve updated 2015-16 intra-district transfer request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, consider approval of the 2016-17 intra-district transfer requests. Staff report?
None.
Move to approve 2016-17 intra-district transfer request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, consider approval of the 2016 extended school year program and contingency hiring of staff based on student enrollment. It's going to be as amended. What are the dates again?
It's 6/6 or June 6th through July 1st.
Any further staff report?
This is a program we run at Special Ed Services, and we've been doing it traditionally. This is just the model for this year.
Any board comments?
Clarification questions. So I want to make sure that I understand the request. These are not hires. These are approval in case the necessary enrollment in extended year school in the ESY hits those numbers. We
Correct.
need approval to staff it.
Correct.
Move to approve 2016 extended school year program and contingency hiring of staff based on student enrollment.
Second.
And that's as amended?
As amended.
Okay. Any still second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, consider approval of CSBA 2016 Delegate Assembly ballot for Subregion 8A. My region. Staff report?
None.
There are two candidates from
3 seats, right?
Is that how many seats?
It
we have?
says number of vacancies 3, and then there's
For no more
two
than 3
candidates.
candidates.
Okay, that's easy.
So I'll move that we cast our ballot, because we get one from the whole district, right?
One for the whole district, correct?
Yeah, that we cast our ballot for the 2. I
Second.
read their bios, they looked good to me.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have a question. Any reason no one's willing to do the third?
As a director, I'll be nominating somebody.
Okay.
So I'll find a board member within our region and nominate him. I know there were a lot of people that submitted applications late, and they didn't accept them, so.
Oh, okay.
Item E, consider approval of job share proposal for Jessica Reyes and Karina Lowther.
Lowther.
Thank you. Staff report.
So again, we have 2 excellent teachers. Job share, they're kind of the model, set the standard. So we are bringing forward with full recommendation that we approve this job share for these 2 highly skilled professionals.
Their significant report, which I appreciate very much, very detailed, thank you, is included in the packet. If anyone has any questions, they're here to answer.
I do have a comment, which is that I was chastised appropriately for the previous job share proposal that was presented. Looks very familiar. And this is very detailed. That one was very detailed. There are other teachers who have done, similar type work, and I was not. I was not saying that proposal was any better than. I was just impressed with the detail. I'm impressed with this detail. I'm not taking anything away from any previous job share proposals. but I thought this one was great as well.
Okay.
I think the proposal is quite thorough and answers any questions that I could have.
And I'll just add, as a parent of a student at Wickland, while my children haven't been in this class, you hear nothing but fantastic reports from the parents on the campus about how those teachers have run their classroom. And it's a pleasure. I'm very proud to ask that we and move that we approve the job share proposal for Jessica Reyes and Corinda Lowther.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for that. Item F, consider approval of Governing Board Resolution 151609, ordering an election to authorize the issuance of a school bond, establishing specifications of the election order, and requesting consolidation with other elections occurring on June 7th, 2016.
Nothing to talk about here, right?
No. Staff report?
Boring item.
Attached with the board agenda is a lot of work that's gone into addressing the very real situation of facilities needs, not only in our school district for our students, but our community. And there was a presentation about facilities 2 weeks ago where some of the bigger buildings were discussed at the high school building phase 3, which would include a theater, 524 seats, a library, a career technical ed or vocational building, an aquatic center pool, some ancillary projects. We also have a need to fulfill our facilities need for Hanson Village. Our Melrose taxes pay for a large portion of a school building. But the reason why those buildings that you saw in that beautiful video are so amazing is because of state matching funds. So we have two things going on concurrently with Hanson Village. You have an escalation in the cost of construction projects because we're charged, our area is charged what the East Bay is charged, lots of buildings going on, and Melrose taxes cover some of it, and there is no state bond. We have a promise to the community for preschools. We have lots of facility needs to fulfill the promise that our district has in terms of all of the buildings for the community. And then finally, I'll say that we have a board subcommittee for facilities use and a full-fledged commitment to our community where our facilities are being used to their full extent by membership outside of the school day. So that's a very brief report to start the conversation.
In addition to the Facility Use Committee, we have an ad hoc committee of 2 of our board members and 2 of the Mountain House CSD board members to discuss and investigate joint ventures moving forward.
Correct.
So next month for that, don't we?
We do. Yeah. So at this point, I'll open up to the board.
I have one little technical question. Why is Alameda in there?
We have a little slice of Alameda County.
Oh, okay. Does anyone live in that?
Yes.
A little slice of Alameda County.
Very small.
And that's why we're a joint unified school district, because their students go to the high
It's
school.
basically the Mountain House Elementary building and the students at the end. I think, what is there, 25 or 30 of them in total for K-8.
I remember right, they have 200 registered voters?
Yeah, but okay. Oh, is it because they go to high school here?
Yes.
Got it.
Yep. So I don't mind getting the ball rolling just from my perspective as one of the longer tenured board members. I'll start with my frustration about having to even ask for this. Before this building was even built, and we had a meeting at what was then boardroom at Wickland Elementary School, and had the financial guru from Cal PERS stand there and promise us a fully built, fully functional, complete high school. We had no anticipation or idea that they would basically walk away from that. And I'm going to be honest, that's exactly what they did. They may say that they met the letter of the agreement with regards to this exhibit and that, but they stood there in front of us, me as a board member, and I believe there's other people in this room who were in that meeting as well and heard the exact same thing I heard. And we were promised one thing and received something else. The school that we have now is a fantastic building. but it's incomplete. It provides nothing for some of the other programs that were mentioned here tonight that are going to be hugely important for the well-rounded education of our students. There's no band room. There's no theater. There's no workshop for people who may want to work on textiles or building or auto shop or welding or other things that will provide them with the things that they need for their futures. It is, as a resident of this community, the hardest thing for me to stand up here and say this is something we need to do, that I need to dip into my pocket, because it's my pocket too, and help pay for this. But the truth is, I have kids, you have kids, but beyond that, we have a community that have always driven to provide our students in our community with the facilities that they need. They don't need to be top-of-the-line facilities. They don't need to be the best facilities. And someone may say that that's what we're trying to do. I don't believe that. I believe we're trying to provide them with what they need. And this request takes care of that. And I am hopeful that the community will see this as what it is. Us having to take a role and a responsibility that was promised us by someone else, and after that rug was pulled out from under our feet, step up and say, but we can't allow an incomplete high school. We can't allow a community not to have an elementary school because other people won't help. So I'm going to ask that this board and this community support this plan.
I have a couple of diagnostic questions that I already know the answers to, but I just want them on the record. First of all, we've exhausted all other alternatives.
Yes.
And if we do not, if the members of this community do not decide to raise a bond, then we will not finish the high school and we will not build Hanson Elementary because we do not have the money in the district to do so. Correct?
Right. So the reality on Hanson is, one, before we would build it, we would have to take all the kids who are moving in to the community. And there are presently 95 students who are living in the Hanson Village, and that's growing, as each house is coming. They'll fill up the other school sites. So I presented 2 weeks ago what our room is. We've got, a little bit more room. And then once that happens, then it comes down to portables. After the capacity is met, then it comes to portables, or we can take the Melrose taxes and build a partial school. And then when you think about that, the school will ultimately have to be completed, and the costs, we're just asking to pay more and more and more.
Right. So, by voting today, we are not voting to raise taxes and build facilities. We are voting, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are voting to give the people of this community the right to decide and raise the bond and build the facilities. We're not doing it. We are giving them the vehicle to decide as a community whether or not we do this.
Correct.
How we got where we are today, Shane, there's going to be a lot of discussion about, there has been a lot of discussion and there's going to be a lot of discussion moving forward about how we got where we are today. But discussing that isn't going to change where we are today. Where we are is where we are. So as a board member, I'm like, well, I could vote against it and try to sway 2 other members of the board to vote against it, and all I would be doing is taking the right from the people to decide whether or not we want to do this as a community. That's all I'd be doing. So my last question is, all right, the motion on the agenda is for a June election. right? Is to get
Correct,
on
a
the
June
ballot for
7th election.
June 7th election. And my last question, and I just thought of it, is if we do this, because there's a tight timeline to get on the June ballot, to get, everything done, get the people educated about all of these discussions that we need to have. If we decide in a month that that's not practicable, can we reverse this and put it on the November and go for the November ballot if we decide as a board to do that?
We have a bond attorney here that will, because I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that we would have to bring back a new resolution.
Right.
But I want to make sure the attorney who knows the experts on this, I'll defer to her.
Hi, I'm Julie Wunderlich from Jones Hall. Yes, I think you could remove it, but you would need to move quickly, because once we get things to the registrar's office, they start planning and putting it on the ballot, and that could be problematic. So, yeah.
Understood.
What you're saying is we may end up having to pay for the election even if we don't hold it.
Oh, absolutely you would. Yes.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. All right.
I would also suggest that if we make a decision, whatever the decision is, we need to be definitive about it, because we need to be clear that this is our intent.
Right. You don't want to be. I understand that we don't want to be wishy-washy. My question was more procedural, like, okay, we are deciding this while it's technically, I don't want the discussion later to be, well, you could have just pulled it off the June ballot and put it on the November, right? I want to make sure that the people that are watching understand the process as well.
I would just like to echo something that Trustee Clements said, and that is that we exhausted all other potential sources of funding. And we went to developers, we went to businesses out there that have philanthropic arms and asked them, could you help us with this thing? We've gone to the state, Director Balzerini and myself have talked to numerous state representatives on this. Is there a way? Is there something in the bond? And so it's not just like we decided, you know what, we need some money, we're going to go out and ask for it. We've done our work with this and tried to find ways to finance these things, and we just run out of other venues.
And I've heard a lot of criticism. Why do we need to go out for a bond? Where is the district's money? And our finances are all public. Anyone can contact the district to look at them. The district has not mismanaged anything. We have been misled, as my fellow trustees have pointed out. I appreciate the way Trustee Clements put it. We're voting tonight to give the community a voice, to see if they're willing to do this. That vote will include the fact that we're currently proud of our world-class facilities, the level of education that our students receive here, and we want to continue that. No one ever touted how proud they were of their portables, okay? And that's where I've been in education a long time. I've taught in a portable. If we want to maintain the level of what we are able to do now and attract more and more families to Mountain House, we need to maintain the level of our facilities, and that's what this is for.
And I feel like over the last 8 months, we've had several presentations about this issue, and I thought we were trying to educate the community. But based on some of the emails I got today, it seems like there's a lot of misunderstanding about the situation that we're in. I've heard comments that the high school was overbuilt. I disagree. I think what you see today, based on visits that I and other board members, some here, some have already moved on, we went out and visited other new school sites, and we have a modern high school that's functional. We're also held to design standards based from this community, like this building. For those of you that remember, I was so opposed to building this building because I think it looks like the Taj Mahal and it looks ridiculous. We spent an extra $1.5 million that I didn't want to because the developers made us, because that's what fits in with the design standards of this community. That's where we are. In a master plan community, we have to follow the rules. The district did not mismanage money. We're held to a mitigation agreement that was written back in the early 90s.
Actually, early 80s.
Yeah, and the cost escalation has not kept up. It's called the Marshall-Swift Index. It has not kept up with the escalating prices, and we've tried to express to the developer, you're holding us to a crappy agreement. And their response has been everything from, first off, we don't have any scientific evidence to prove that schools sell homes, so why would we want to help you? Up to our most recent is, hey, we've satisfied our contractual obligation, that's all the money you're going to get. To the point where we had to fight for $52 million to fund the first 2 phases of the high school. Without, blood, sweat, and tears by many board members and our past and current superintendent, we wouldn't have the first 2 phases completed. So the district has done everything in its power. The board has advocated in every way to fund the last phase of the high school, and the developer's not coming through. So, like the other trustees have mentioned, we've exhausted all possibilities, and this is a situation we're in. As far as Hansen's concerned, our governor, on a whim, decided that the state should no longer participate in bonding for construction projects for education. I'm trying to explain to his office that, hey, we don't have an option. It's built into our plan. In our mitigation agreement, it specifically states that school construction bond is used for matching funds. Without that money, we can't build a school. So it's awful. As a resident, I'm furious. The developers, I think Town Center speaks for itself. The fact that that they pulled their own application because they knew that it wasn't going to be approved because it didn't fit the design standards of the master plan speaks volumes. They wrote the master plan, and now we're held to it, and it's so stringent, so strict that we can't even operate within it. There's no other options. As a community member, we pay some pretty high taxes. I feel it too, just like everyone here. I was asked in a couple emails about that today, saying, we pay high taxes already, why on earth would we want to do this? And I go back to what's been said is, this is a community decision. Do you want to finish our high school and have the K-8 school and all the additional infrastructure built to our current schools to make things great for our students? Or do you want to have portables? It's a community decision. It's our neighborhood. What do we want it to look like? If we approve to move forward on this bond, we're going to need the help of every community member to spread the word and to explain how we got into the situation and how we get out of it. And again, it's up to the community. I don't mean to steal everyone's thunder, but
I just want to piggyback on something that Trustee Balzerini said a moment ago. I was in the meeting that he was in where a gentleman, and I use that term loosely, said that there was no proof that schools sold houses or added to property values or anything else. And we fought and fought. We got what is built of the high school built, and he stood, that same gentleman, stood in one of our schools and told the community that high school added $50,000 to the value of every home in Mountain House. How he changed his opinion over the course of a year and a half or so, I don't understand, but that's how developers work.
Speaking as a developer, I have literally had a community for one of the largest 5 builders in the country that I worked for at the time, who will remain nameless. But when we did the land plan, right, we thought we were in one school district. We got approvals. We went to start construction, and we did all the market surveys to determine what the sales price would be, assuming school district A. We learned that we were just one smidge away and we were in school district B, and we revised the marketing plan, and the change in the sales price, the estimated sales price for just, I mean, same location, same distance from the freeway, same distance from the major shopping centers, same distance from the major employers, same exact location. The only difference is school district A, school district B. Reduced sales price by $100,000 a unit.
That was great timing. That was amazing timing.
Thank you. So I had decided earlier today that I was not going to go through all of the, and try to refute or educate the public on a lot of the misconceptions. That wasn't really the focus of today. Really today is, do we want to start the process of educating the public and give them the opportunity to decide for themselves based on the evidence that we present the evidence that is presented between, and the information that is presented between now and the election. So I decided I wasn't going to go through all of them, Matt. We can if we want to.
I feel differently because just the fact alone that we even have to put a bond measure forward to this community, I feel that we need to explain ourselves. I feel that we need to show that this is not mismanagement. This is a governor who's got great ideas but doesn't do his homework, and a developer that is not seeing this project through, and an agreement that was written back a long time ago that didn't take into account the price escalation. And we got to be honest, technology has changed everything. The advances in technology and the cost up front has been huge. And in fact, there is language in the bond that with some of the funding, we would be able to add to some of our earlier schools, Wickland, Lammersville, Wickland, Bethany. We'd be able to make some of the upgrades that Cuesta and the high school and Altamont have received. So I understand there's some, newer schools get the news bells and whistles and some of the older schools don't. I get that. So we're going to try and use some of the funding from this bond to help with that. But I think it's important that we talk about it.
I agree.
And then I do have additional comments. I think there are probably public comments that I would be interested in hearing.
I just want to add one more important part of this, and that's if this body decides tonight to vote, whether it's June, whether it's November, the hard work on this side of the table is, for the most part, done. We'd be looking to the community because at that point we have an obligation to step back as a legislative body and not take certain steps as a group. It would then, we'd be looking to the community to say, this is your decision, this is for you. If you want it, we need your help to get it. And so I do want to stress that for those emails that we got, all the emails I got were in favor with certain concerns, and some of which I actually responded to and share. Everything we can do to try to improve these facilities to provide the same educational opportunities at all the schools, we should absolutely be doing, and everywhere possible we should try to find a way to allow the community to use the facilities as much as possible. I agree with all of those things. It's just I can't get past what we don't have, what we can't offer. It saddens me to think about the programs that we could be offering right now today, considering the innovative programs that we offer with the limited facilities that we do have at our high school and for our 7th and 8th grade middle school students, for lack of a better term, what they could receive with the additional facilities that they could be getting, what the staff at these schools could do with these additional facilities with regards to art, music, and science. And I'm hoping to see that that's the conversation that we're going to have going forward. So,
and I would just like to clarify something, and correct me if I'm wrong, Trustee Nielsen, but when you say that our work is largely done, you mean that as a board?
As a body, yes, as a legislative body.
I plan to be out there working as hard as anybody to see that we get these things that I believe the district needs.
Yeah, Shane Nielsen, citizen, will be out there like crazy. Shane Nielsen, governing board member, can't be. So that's a issue we'll be having to deal with. So.
Do you have further comments?
I think I will. I'd like to hear from the people.
I have one.
Public comment, Stephanie Olson.
I wasn't going to speak on this issue tonight. I was going to just email you all, but when I saw that we had a bond attorney here, I thought maybe I could direct my concern and question to you, and perhaps it could get actually answered tonight. Shane mentioned that some of the concerns of community members are the facilities and being open up to the town, and I understand the burden on the district with regard to providing facilities. But, I was reading education code just because I miss my days in law school. And, I'm a mom of 5 kids now, and sometimes I need something to get my brain going. But I was reading the Civic Center Act, and I think that, our schools definitely kind of embody what this act talks about. They are the center of our community, and that's where everything takes place and happens. And so I will be the first person to go pound doors, pound pavement, and vote to have myself taxed more, which I absolutely hate taxes. But I would like to know how we can get some assurances, where we live in a place where we've had so many promises broken to us. Mr. Balzerini alluded to the developers and all the promises that we've heard. And, this will happen in 2 years. Oh, no, never mind. 3 more years. I promise 3 more years. And it just, it's like this carrot that's dangling there. And if I'm going to vote to raise my taxes, I want to make sure that carrot's coming to me, So I would like to know how we can get something in writing. And it's not that I expect you guys to provide access to the pool for free to the community, but my daughter is on a swim team in Tracy, and they use the public school facilities. And I know our swim team bill was $19,000 that for a couple months in the winter to cover the heating. And the swim team raises the money, the parents, we pay our checks every month so that we can cover the coaches and everything that goes into using those facilities. Well, it would be great, I think, and people would be like, yeah, I'll pay extra taxes, knowing that we've got an agreement in place where the school board is going to honor it. That this is not something that, they're going to be able to wiggle out of. And I don't know if that's possible, with something on the ballot or anything, but I think that's just one of my biggest concerns is, will I vote to raise my taxes? And I send my children to a private high school for various reasons. And so they're not going to get to use the high school, right? But I want my community friends to use it. But if I'm going to raise my taxes, I would like to see some benefit too. And so I'm kind of long-winded, but, I want you to see the frustration that a lot of us feel is that really these schools, that's all we've got. And honestly, the more the houses get built, the less likely I see those developers ever building our town center. So we could be the only show in town forever. So if there's anyone that can answer that question, I would much appreciate it, because I would be willing to go pound the pavement for sure. Thank you.
Well, although I'm not on the facility use committee now, I did spend the last grueling year on the committee, and I can tell you every single one of our facilities is available to be rented. And as far as joint use with the CSD, we have this ad hoc committee, and we're striving to come up with an agreement for something like that. As far as assurances, at this point, I don't know that there are any, but I can assure you that we're working on it. And at this point, again, all of our facilities, including the track, because there's some misbelief that people cannot rent the track. That's not true. The track can be rented, and it has been rented. So all of our facilities are available for renting, and that would include all of our future facilities as well, unless this board changes the handbook. But as written right now,
the one thing I would give as a caveat is this board could make a promise. Come November, you could have 3 new members up here, and they don't have to honor a darn thing. Okay, the best we could do is exactly what we've been doing, which is we have a facilities committee where we've been talking about trying to get some of those things done. And And I would point out that, as Mr. Balzerini said, if you actually look at our usage, which I know has actually been posted on the school district website a few times, if you look at the usage of our facilities, you'd be surprised to see how many hours are actually spent by outside entities in our schools. I would also say that it's important to remember that a joint use agreement with the CSD implies joint and a give and a take on both sides. And that would include joint funding, joint staffing, joint other opportunities, none of which are actually on the table, mostly because the CSD just doesn't have any money, again, related back to the developer. So we continue, Mr. Balzerini and I continue to have those meetings to try to find solutions to this, because I'm in the same exact boat. I would love to be able to walk over on a Saturday afternoon to the high school and plop my kids into the pool. I'm fairly certain that the principal at the high school would love to take his kids to the pool as well. But all of that being said, we're building high school facilities, and that's always got to be a priority. If the high school swim team has a meet, we can't open the facilities. If the high school marching band has the track, we can't open the facilities. But that doesn't mean we can't look to try to find every opportunity possible. And whether I'm here, whether I'm there, I'm going to be asking for that at every stage. We need to try to provide, because we are, and I agree with you, we're going to be the only game in town for a long time. We were promised a grocery store when I moved in. 13 years ago, I was promised a grocery store within 3 years. Last I checked, that time frame is 3 years. So everything, I agree with you. There's going to be nothing that we don't build. So we have to try to find a way to make sure the community has every option to use it.
I'm not on the facilities use committee, and I never have been. So I'm not married to any of those decisions, but I do have a very strong opinion. Some of the comments that I read on Facebook, and I respect those comments, but they talk about the track not being open to the public as evidence or indication that the pool or the theater wouldn't be because the district didn't open the track. And I want to be very clear about, and this is my opinion, but the discussion at hand was not whether or not the track could be rented, because any individual can come and say, you know what, I want to use the track and I'm willing to pay the fees and I'm willing to do this. It's the question of whether the track should be open to the public. Is what we said, you know what, we can't figure out how to make that work. And if the CSD came to, and granted, I'm one person, I'm not the 5-member board, but if the CSD came to us tomorrow and said, you know what, we will fund the staffing to supervise the track in the mornings and in the evenings, right? We'll do that. I'm pretty sure that the district would say, okay, we will staff the supervision and we will open it to the people. Which is the same thing as the pool, because I sit there and I could see the district opening the track to the public, and maybe I could even see, we tried opening it to the public, or we thought we were going to, and then we looked at all of the problems and said, no, it can't be done without some supervision or some responsibility. I can't even imagine opening the pool to general public use. Just come on down, swim in the pool. We don't need anybody there. I guarantee you the pool and the theater are different than the track. The track, the reason that we're not opening it is because we can't afford to staff it. If some benefactor won the lottery and said, hey, I will fund the supervision of the track, I'm pretty sure we would allocate resources and open it. Sure. With the pool, if the CSD said, you know what, this is a community benefit, we will fund the lifeguard and staffing for non-school hours so that it can be open as a public benefit, I'm pretty sure we would do it. Why wouldn't we? But what I'm hearing from the community is, because you're not opening the track as a public benefit, i.e. spending resources that the state is giving you that is specifically targeted to the education and welfare of the students in your district towards a public benefit, we have a problem with a bond for a pool and a theater. And I've never been on the facilities use committee, but I was part of the decision that said, you know what, until we find a way to safely secure the assets and make it available, we can't do it. I think that the two issues are separate. I think I'm willing to commit as a board member that if we get money to supervise the use of a pool, we will make it, I will vote to make it open to the public. I mean, I don't have anything in writing, but I'm willing to make that commitment as one of 5 board members.
And I would just like to touch on something that was mentioned a moment ago about wiggling out of commitments or promises. And this district, to my knowledge, hasn't done that, unlike some of the other entities that are out here. That's it.
Trustee Pombo stole my comment.
But I do respect their views. I just disagree, I have to say.
Any further comments by the board? We've hammered it pretty hard. I guess the next question or discussion would have to be June versus November. If there's any discussion, I mean, the resolution as proposed says June. If there's any discussion about making it November instead of June.
You mentioned due to the county. At what point are we committed to June? I mean, let's say we decide, going back to what Mr. Clements mentioned earlier, let's say we vote to do this June tonight, it passes, we get it going, and before the next meeting we find out we're not going to get the ancillary services that we're going to need from the community, the ancillary support that we're going to need from the community up and rolling in time to get this a good shot. When are we, what's our drop dead date? When are we committed?
I would have to go back and look at the elections code on when you could rescind. But we are here today because San Joaquin County Registrar requires that we get the ballot measure to them by Friday of this week if we're going to make the June election.
So that
and if I could just clarify, they changed the deadline from March 11th to this new deadline without trumpets and pomp and circumstance. So the folks that are sitting here to honor the requests of the board did 3 weeks worth of work in 2 days so that you have the opportunity to make this choice.
Thank you very much for that.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. When I ask the question, I'm not disrespecting the work that was done. I'm simply wanting to make as informed of a decision as I can possibly make.
Very valid question.
For sure.
So in essence, we submit it by Friday, we're probably on the hook financially, at least to the county.
Well, I think there's probably some wiggle room there. They said they would work with us for up to a week to get them the ballot measure, so that they were going to work with us because they're pushing what's required under the code. They're supposed to accept it up to March 11th, but there are many counties that do this and want everything early so that they can get their printing process in order.
Can I sue the county? That's my biggest concern is that, like I said, that the efforts of this body as a group, once we make a vote on this resolution, if it passes as a group, has to stop, and we have to look to others for the lion's share of what will be a Herculean effort to get completed in basically what amounts to 2 months if we vote for June. Ballots will be mailed to us in May. This community, as we found out, is exceedingly voting by absentee ballots, and that's my biggest worry is that we just won't have the time.
I think all 5 of us are sitting there at exactly the same spot.
But I also understand that we also we need to get a building schedule up and going and worked on, and those 6 months could cost us in the long run. Those 6 months could cost us having to, for those who lived through the Bethany and Wickland completely stuffed to the gills days like I did, those 6 months could put us exactly there where we are suddenly looking at 850, 900 kids again at Bethany, and nobody wants that. So those 6 months become hugely important.
What did we just learn about the elevators?
Oh yeah, so this is. I had a meeting with Turner Construction, and they were talking about a project that they were working on. And for the community members that don't know, Turner built our high school. They also built Altamont. They also built Levi Stadium and the new Sacramento Kings Stadium. So they're doing some work. They couldn't build a building right now in this year that's 2 stories because all of the people who make elevators, all of the elevators are already called upon. So that's what's going on out there, which is why prices are going up, is because there's a competition for the materials that are available.
Can we use catapults instead of?
There's lots of regulations.
We should vote as a board to create an elevator building company as a funding source for future facilities.
I also it's kind of tied to that. Timing is part of this conversation. So we have one of our financial wizards sitting out here. The assessed value in our community since the budget crisis has gone up. And the cost of a loan is staying very, very low. So in terms of timing, delays, changes in the world economy, changes in the state economy, all of that could impact costs. So there are windows of time where things are good in terms of making a consideration like that. So I want to share with the board, that's another part of this decision is the timing of when to do it.
Also, a 6-month delay could add construction costs to.
It will.
It will. Yeah. So in light of what our student needs are, even though we are concerned about a June, how fast things would have to move for a June ballot and the amount of work that will need to be done to get the vote out. We are going to have continuing rising student needs. We don't want schools packed to the gills. That's not good for their education. And it's not good for our staff. And to avoid any more rising costs, I will move for approval.
Hold on one second.
What?
We just received one more public comment. So before you move,
Okay.
Corey.
Thanks, Corey.
I actually just have one question. Are there any statistics on whether or not higher or lower voter turnout matters when trying to ask for a new tax increase? So that might be a consideration, because typically in a presidential election, the voter turnout's higher in November, right, than it's going to be in June?
Yeah, sure.
So just something to think about.
I don't know the answer to that. I know that it tends to go, from what I know of school bonds, like either all passing or all failing at the same time.
They spoke to this in the CSBA. I focused my CSBA, what do you call them, breakout sessions on school facilities because of this very issue. And they did talk about the fact that there is higher turnout in a November election, especially a presidential election, and that generally means a more positive, you get a slight benefit for November, but it's not 15%. I can't remember the number, but it's a few percent. It's like 6% or something like that.
The breakout session that I attended said, but this year specifically would be difficult. There's going to be voter fatigue because there's so many measures on the ballot.
So it's kind of yeah.
So June's not optimal, but I will continue with moving for approval of Governing Board Resolution 15-16-09, ordering an election to authorize the issuance of school bonds, establishing specifications of the election order, and requesting consolidation with other elections occurring on June 7th, 2016.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Roll call.
Balzerini?
Aye.
Clements?
Aye.
Lampel?
Aye.
Nielsen?
Aye.
Pombo?
Aye.
Information discussion items. Item A, emergency preparedness, full-scale safety exercise. Staff report.
I'd like to ask Dr. Gill, who's leading this effort, to come and speak to the board.
Good evening, Governing Board, Mr. President, and Dr. Nicholas. So our committee, safety committee, has been working very hard for the past, actually since I have been here, for the past 4 years. or so. So the committee is comprised of parents, administrators, classified staff, teachers. We meet on a monthly basis, and usually the committee's focus is to look at the daily safety issues, safety things on a monthly basis, making sure all the drills are being done, and then finally make sure our school safety plans and then also the school safe plans are up to date. And I just realized I didn't have my clicker in my hand. One of our biggest thing in our district is that safety is the top priority for our school district. I just mentioned the work that our committee does. And another thing that I didn't mention earlier was along with working on the professional development for the safety specific pieces, we also provide CPR and first aid training. For free so far we have been able to do for the past few years. We do have really great partnerships with our sheriff department, with our fire department. They actually do attend our safety meetings as well. And Tracy Hospital Foundation has been very generous to us in many different ways. Along with providing money, they also provide resources to us as well. And so this is where the big drill piece comes in, because as the Emergency Responses Crisis Team and Technical Assistance Center, they have specific 5 drills that should be 5 exercises that should be exercised in any organization, specifically schools. We do the first 4 of them often, especially the first 3, which is orientations, drills, tabletop exercises. Function exercises, we do them sometimes at the schools as well. We did one last year in Wickland, but we haven't done any full-scale exercises. We have these plans, but we haven't tested them. So it's very important to test the plans, so really make sure that we actually really understand them, make sure they're going to work. So the real purpose of all the drills, all the exercises is really for prevention. So make sure that we prevent any potential emergencies to happen, especially the ones that might be aware of, such as gas leaks, anything like that, or safety issues at the school playgrounds, those type of things. And secondly, for the natural emergencies, to prepare ourselves for natural emergencies or any other kind of situations. And then finally, which is a huge one, how do we recover from crisis? That's another big one. So that's what our committee specifically focuses on for the plans, and then also for practices as well. So for the big scale exercise that our goal is to conduct on March 16th at the high school around noon, that's going to be our first exercise as a district. We haven't done anything like that so far. We have been preparing staff for the past 3-4 years. Again, since I have been here, I know it was done even prior to that we have been doing tabletop exercises, including ICS trainings. Even Mr. Balzerini did some of the ICS trainings, even for our administrative staff for the past couple of years. And we also had a full-blown, about 40-hour-long CERT training for about 30-plus staff members, which include administration, teachers, and classified staff. We would like to continue doing those trainings, but our staff members have been asking, saying, we have been doing these trainings, but we haven't really actually tried them to see if we really know what we have learned, if we can use it, what we have really learned. And then that will also help us to put our safety plan in action, because we just learned a couple of weeks ago that when the water thing happened, we didn't really have anything in our safe schools plan for water. Like if water pipe breaks, what did you do? Right? So we learned something. Our safety committee is going to be working on putting that kind of measure in as well. And so testing our safety plans is extremely important, because having them written down and putting them in a binder isn't enough, or uploading them on a website isn't enough. We have to really practice and practice with our staff. And the big one in an emergency is communication. That is the key. How do we communicate among ourselves as a staff? How does the school side communicate with the district office staff? How does the district office staff respond? How do we communicate with our major stakeholders, which are parents? So again, this drill is going to help us with that. And then finally, reunification process, which is a huge thing. That's where when we hear about some emergency issues at the other, in general, in the news, one of the things we typically hear is the reunification took a long time. The reunification wasn't done correctly. Or people were very confused because how do parents know where to pick my child from? How does the staff log in which child was picked up by whom? How do we make sure that all the children, all the parents know exactly which door to go to? They don't have to wait in the line for a long time. All these processes, we have to practice those in order for us to really make sure that happens. And then finally, practice for students, staff, and parents. So the big drill that's going to happen on Wednesday, March 16th, around noon at the high school, that is the goal at that time, is the plans that high school has been preparing now to put them in action. So our goal will be, we already sent an article through the newsletters, through our websites, it's already out there, sharing general information about why doing a drill or a full-scale drill is important. Our next step is going to be, our high school administration is going to be specifically communicating with the high school parents, talking about this drill, but also talking about their evacuation plans, their reunification plans. As parents, how do you pick your children up? Where do you pick them up? And being high school, they're actually going to be putting them in groups together by last names. In a CARE school, that could be by grades. So the parents know exactly if during an emergency, if an evacuation happens, my child is going to be picked up from this gate. So they don't have to worry about going to the office, going to other places, trying to figure out how to do this. So we want to be at that point where everybody knows exactly how things are going to happen. So this drill is going to give us an opportunity to practice all those kind of things. So high school staff is going to be, we're going to be closely working, I'm going to be very closely working with Mr. Purveyor and Mr. Sham to communicate that information with the parents. And then we're also going to be asking parents to be volunteers on that day through a process so that we are not going to have 900, 800 parents have to go through that specific piece, but some parent volunteers who could actually play a role in this drill as well. We're also going to have students who will play a role in this drill. So we're very excited about it. And then the biggest aha is going to be afterwards when we will debrief with the entire staff together and with all the committee members and then our sheriff and fire department together as well. Because they have been working with us as we have been planning this drill at every step. They give us feedback, give us input and saying, yes, this is feasible, this is not feasible. And an aha moment for me today was when we were sitting in the meeting and when we were asking the fire department, they said, you know what, this is also going to help us test our resources. Saying in real life, if something like this happens, an emergency happened, would we have enough resources to help you guys? So we're really looking forward to it. More information will come, but we just wanted to give you some basic information about what we have been doing and what the goal is. Questions?
So your full-scale drill, is it a pretend earthquake? What is the emergency?
Well, we don't want to give it away.
We were trying to keep it a secret.
Okay, never mind then.
Yes.
It's going to be a surprise.
I will say this is going to be something like natural. We purposely did not want to make it anything scary. Like a bomb or a shooting or something, because that wouldn't be a good thing to do. Because even though in that kind of case, even if it's a drill, that fear that people have this in mind, it comes. So we're trying to make it as something natural that will most likely will happen or may happen at a high school.
I just want to add, for those who question about these things, for those of us who lived here 3 or 4 years ago and went through the 4 bomb threats in 2 weeks at Kimball High School, and the complete logistical nightmare it was to retrieve your children that I lived through trying to get my daughter from that school, and on one occasion was able to take a child not related to me, and on another occasion was not able to find my daughter in those 4 different times. This isn't just about when a crisis could happen, but it's about when something potential could happen and making sure we're prepared, because the feeling that I had as a parent going, where in God's name is my daughter? She's supposed to be here. And if this were a real situation and I have no idea where my daughter is, believe me, that administration heard from me. I implore as many people in the public to help participate in something like this, because whatever it might be, scary or not, we have to prepare for what could happen. And again, not just if it could happen, but if the threat of something could happen, so that we are prepared. So I hope to be able to volunteer if you need a body.
Definitely. We'll be
I'm
needing
sure
lots
someone
of
would look forward to
volunteers.
covering me with blood and all sorts of goop. So
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Dr. Gill, Mr. Seamus, Mr. Faubert, and his staff. I was at the meeting today and doing a great job in planning and thinking outside the box, really thinking about the what ifs, and that's preparedness. So thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Where are we? Item B, updated Title III Local Education Agency Plan Goal 2.
So Mr. Seamus is here to speak to this, but I do want to speak to the board and the community about, there's a lot of gobbledygook language in education. Title III means nothing to anyone unless you're in the loop. So Title III is money. It's money from the feds. So anytime you see Title I, Title II, or Title III, that's federal money. When you get money from the federal government, there are rules, and you have to follow the rules. Typically, there are also consequences for not following the rules. So Mr. Seamus is going to speak to one of the pieces that fall within rules. But remember that LCFF is state funding tied to foster youth, low income, and English learners. Title III is money for English learners. Another term for that is ELD, mentioned in a presentation earlier, which is English language developing. So this is all around kids who are home language is not English.
Good evening, President Balzerini and trustees and Dr. Nicholas. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Title III, and as Dr. Nicholas explained, it means money, and it's money from the federal government. Part of the process to receive our allotment, which is a relatively small allotment, that comes in two different sums, one for English language learners in the amount of about $33,000, and another for immigrant students in the amount of about $6,400. Part of the requirement was that we update our Title III Goal 2 plan, which you have before you. And so what we've done is put together a budget for that, funding for paraprofessionals to work with these groups of students as in a supplemental capacity, and also for professional development for paraprofessionals and teachers as well. We have an amount set aside for that in the amount of $4,500. And we also have supplemental instructional support for digital resources and other materials. And we submitted this plan to the state, and we're told that it is substantially approvable. So I'm not sure.
I like that language.
I speak Spanish, but I'm not sure what that means. I think it means that
It's a totally different thing, man.
I think it means that it's approved. And this is all kind of tied into the whole accountability movement. So a lot of this is up in the air right now. It's hard to get answers about some of these things right now as well, because nobody's quite certain about what's coming down the pike in that regard. And to have a plan that is substantially approvable, I think, is a positive. And
I'm going to start using that phrase a lot. Honey, that outfit is not substantially approvable.
I like that. And so some of the uses that we can use this for, and we have set aside in our budget, as I said, for professional development and training for teachers and paraprofessionals, and then some additional time for paraprofessionals to work with ELL students and immigrant students. We can use these funds as well for parent outreach, which we do through DLAC and ELAC, and we have some more work to do there to get people to come to those meetings and have their input. But also, we can use the funds to purchase additional supplemental materials. These are fundings for supplemental programs and materials. Questions?
So I'd just like to comment that all of these ideas were brought up at the DLAC committee. There was lots of input from staff and from parents, and what you've presented reflects accurately what was described, what was discussed and recommended at that meeting. So thank you.
Thank you.
Will you let us know if that status changes?
I don't think it will. The process moving forward is
Marginally approved.
to post a link on our website, and then the allotment is ours.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, Grant Writing Committee. Trustee Nielsen.
So as part of the gate committee meeting that we had, one of the biggest issues, a great number of things were discussed. I'm gonna go over some of them. The one thing, for example, was, and this is something that I had a bit of a problem with, the music teachers don't feel they can teach the advanced music as much because they're teaching at the lower levels. And I had to mention, well, it was just 2 years ago that we as a board were asked to increase the advanced music teacher to go down into the lower grades so that the lower grade teachers weren't teaching music. And it was brought to my attention, well, why don't we hire a second teacher at every school site, one for advanced music and one for the lower level beginner music? And I said, that's a great idea. 5 sites, 5 teachers, $500,000. Where do I find it? And one of the parents, as we were talking about this with science and a bunch of the other things, was bringing up, well, there are grants. And I kept thinking to myself, well, I'm sure there are. And at this point, I was thinking, but where, what can we use them for and how? And I've got to be perfectly honest with you. My answer to that question is I have no earthly idea. But I do know that we've had some success with some individuals sitting in the audience directly in front of me who have done a very good job at writing some grants and thought it might be something that we as a board might want to pursue, creating a group, whether we call it a committee or whatever, that pursues trying to find additional grants for some of these programs, for the art, for the music, for GATE, for some of the things that we can't fund because of the lack of funding we get from the state. And so I thought it might be something where we can pull in some of that expertise plus some of the parent expertise that is out there and try to create a group that goes out and looks for these things. And it's not just the finding it. To be perfectly honest with you, that's the easy part. It's the writing of the grant that takes all of the time, and to try to find a group that might be willing to shoulder some of that burden. So I asked that we bring this tonight to discuss whether we could talk about creating something like that.
I think it would be great if we could find that expertise and willingness in our community. Grant writing is an art.
Yep.
Grant writing is extremely time-consuming. I know how much work Dr. Gill and her team have put into some of the grants that we do have, and that's great. They're very highly skilled, but they don't have any more time. There's only 24 hours in a day. So I think it would be a good idea to pursue that in the community and see if it's out there, and if it's not, to actually think about hiring a grant writer.
And that was the next step, was to talk about whether we could hire someone whose role that was primarily, because in the end what you do is you find the grants that it's self-sustaining. The grants are paying for the grant writer, so the grant writer can go out and find other grants that help provide for the other programs. And I was curious, I don't know do we know of any other districts locally that might have some that we'd be able to piggyback something like that off of and figure out how they do it? I don't know of any.
Yeah, I don't know. But I know it was considered in one of my previous districts where we were going to hire someone as the district's needs changed, and ours are changing because they're growing, to have half-time in one of our academic needs and half-time grant writer. We can't afford a full-time grant writer.
No.
We don't need a full-time grant writer. But to have that built into a job description as the expansion of the district office and more directors and coordinators are needed, that's something that we could think about.
So in a previous life, I oversaw a department that was called the Grant Writing Department, which had, before the budget crisis, had a full-time budget auditor and 2 writers. That was a high poverty urban district, so there are lots of grants available to it. This is a great idea. But what I think from my perspective and experience with grant writing is it's not just the writing process. We need people to research and find grants out there for districts like ours. Most grants that are coming forward from the public sector are going to be to work for kids who have less means. But there are ample opportunities, grants, But a lot of things are just simply a matter of, if somebody works for X corporation and they can sign their name off on it, then they'll write a check for $7,000. You multiply that by 15 and you got a pile of money. So I think it's an excellent opportunity to really look at what are grants and other consortia and the like to support our programs. That's different, and how we can compete with districts that don't have LCFF funding, such as ourselves.
I think it would be an excellent idea to come up with a plan to form a committee and put it out there, because as you said, there are individuals in this community who know about grants, who know about opportunities, and just asking, we'll get some answers.
I have a public comment. Stephanie Olson.
So, you are looking for people to be involved, and when I saw grant writing, I got excited because I know it's weird, but I like to write. My educational background, I undergrad was French and history. I did a master's in French language acquisition, wrote a thesis, went to law school, won best brief, judged by Supreme Court judges. I know how to write, and I also know how to research. And so those are things I like to do. And I also love my kids. And I want them to have things that maybe we don't have right now. And believe me, I've poured over the budget because I would love to have found something that you guys missed. Just, because wishful thinking, just wishful thinking. But I have, in pouring over the budget, agree with everything that's been said tonight about that we have no other pennies to spare. And I also met recently with Mr. Wong, who is Susan Eggman's field rep, when he came out here for her office hours. And I just wanted to meet with him and ask him if there's anything I as a citizen can do, because I'm frustrated when I look at our funding per pupil under the LCFF formula and I see what other schools are getting, and I went to law school because I'm all about justice and fairness, and this doesn't seem fair to me, and I like things to be fair. And so, he urged me to contact our district to see what we had done, because that's the first step. So I did contact Dr. Nicholas and Trustee Balzerini, and they let me know that they're definitely working on it and reaching out to the people that need to be reached. But I was just left feeling a little frustrated, because I'm like, dang it, I'm a voter. I should have a say. Where's that governor? I want to go talk to him, and so I started, getting frustrated, feeling like, what can I do? I want to make a difference. I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to give up. I don't care if they say we're never getting another penny. I'm going to find a way to get us another penny. And so when I saw the grant stuff on there, I got excited, because I was like, I feel like that's a way I could contribute and help the district. I would be willing to research. I'd be willing to write. I'd be willing to work under the direction of whoever is, in charge at your level, but and help do the studies to find out what makes our district, the type of district that deserves this grant. What are our demographics? What are the things that happen here that make us, special from other districts? And so I'm just here tonight before you to let you know that you've got one parent, and I have a few friends that have messaged me and said they'd be there too, so thank you.
Stephanie, thank you for bringing your passion, as usual. Schools are all fairly adequate, funded adequately. It just depends on your definition of fair. So our governor has not been our friend in that regard. I would like to direct the superintendent to, with staff, come up with something to bring back to the board, maybe contact Mrs. Olson and some others that have expressed interest, and see what we can put together.
Yep.
Thank you. And thank
Stephanie,
you for
time to start calling your friends.
And I will thank, I don't remember the parent's name, but this really came from one of the parents at the GATE meeting, and want to make sure that the credit is where it was. Unfortunately, I just drew a blank on her name, but she was very instrumental in providing this information. So I'm glad that she was there to be able to talk. And that's going back to the participation in the committees is helpful for everybody. It's this kind of input. It's those kind of ideas that, I like to think I'm a smart person, but I don't think of everything. And to hear from other people and other ideas is always a benefit to me as a board member. So I appreciate it. And thank you to the board.
Thank you for bringing that forward. Item D, our student board member has brought forward a discussion item, science fair. So Samantha, would you like to start the discussion?
So after I have been listening to students and parents in the district, I have decided that I think it needs to be talked about. There are concerns, and I think it needs to be addressed or even just looked at. So one of the first concerns I have gathered is I've talked to many high school students, and many of them have expressed that by the time that they get into high school science with the lab and the equipment that is used and the procedures they have to write and figure out, they feel unprepared, as in science fair was supposed to teach that throughout middle school, when it was more like science fair teaches one aspect of science, when if it was in a lab, it could have been done in class with different aspects and different opportunities for hands-on activities. Secondly, I have heard that parents have had to help students with science fair, and it is very involved for much of what I've heard. The third concern I have is many students are forced to work on it over breaks, just with the due dates, which I think could probably be rearranged so they wouldn't have to work on it over their school holidays. And I also had some questions that I'd like to ask.
Sure.
Our resident expert on science fair in its version presently is Dr. Gill, so I'm happy to call her up here to the podium.
Yes, Ms. Trustee.
So my first question is, how much parental assistance does a science fair involve?
So let me see if I can lower this down first. Okay, so let me explain in a nutshell how science fair is supposed to work. And yes, in our district there are some gaps. There's some things that we need to be working on. I personally promised Mrs. Olson that we will be working on this. So ideally, I was a science teacher. This is something my students did for many, many years, and I worked with the kids. So ideally, what should be done is scientific methods should be taught in a classroom on a daily basis. When the students do a lab, they should be taught how to write hypotheses, procedures, all those kind of pieces, right? And then it becomes part of their natural piece of learning how to do scientific method, how to do technical writing. And then what happens is, when science fair project comes along, that also should be done, part of that, mostly in class. Now, some portions of it could be done at home, but mostly should be done, like, for example, as a teacher, my routine used to be, my kids, we spent at least between October to January or so, or February or so, we spent good 2 hours or hour and a half per week during class on science fair. I went from group to group to group, working on, okay, how did you write your hypothesis? How did you write this? So ideally, that's how it's supposed to happen. That's how students learn, because they're the ones who should be coming up with how to write a summary, how to make their graph, how to make a data table. So as a teacher, then it will be my job to teach the kids every single step. Boys and girls, let's learn how to write a data table today. Now you write your data table. Now I'm going to come around and check how did you write it, give you feedback so we can correct it, right? So that should be ideal. So I gave you a long answer to your short question. That's what we want to be doing. That's where we want to get to, is where it should not be parents' responsibility. I can't imagine, because if I would not have been a science teacher, there's no way, even as an educator, I could have been teach my children or work with my children, my own personal children, how to do that. So, so I don't even know if I answered your question or not, but I just was trying to tell you that it should not be just homework. It's a process, it's part of education, part of classroom on a daily basis.
And my second question is there an option for students to complete the project but opt out of the actual competition?
You mean the school level competition?
Yeah, not compete in the school level competition, but do the project for the class.
So that's, again, $1 million question. Rules are made by people, and policies are made by people. They could be changed however we want to, right? But let me give you a history a little bit, but without just giving an answer, is the history in our district has been to follow the county rules. Okay, the county says if you want to compete at the science fair at the county level, you need to do a 4th through 8th grade project in groups or individually. So that's what we have been following traditionally, historically in our district. I believe it started around 2004, 2005, around that time. We did some research that when it actually started that process like that. So since then, the whole past practice has been going on. My understanding is students compete in science fair at their own classroom level first. Basically, they would do a presentation. From that, teachers select the top projects to be competed at the school level. Then they compete at the school level, and from there they compete at the county level. So ideally, can they opt out to compete from the school level? Yes, they can. But some of them, they do actually present their projects at the classroom level.
Can I add something here? Do you mind? Because I want to. So both of my children just recently competed in their science fair at the local school. My daughter, who doesn't really like science, my son, who hates school at all. Both of them won prizes, and my daughter's was offered to go to the county. Both of them couldn't have been more excited about the result. I get the frustration of not winning, but there's got to be, from my perspective, a give and take when you start talking about should a student be forced to participate. Well, force is kind of a tough word. If you've got something where a teacher or a staff member can see something and see the benefit of it, we really need to be encouraging, because in the end, we could have my son may realize he likes science because he was competing in the science fair. And again, when we walked through the science fair at Wickland and he saw his ribbon and it meant first place, as far as he knew, he just won the World Series. It was the coolest thing that he had ever done. So I do think we need to have a whole well-rounded discussion over this, paying attention to not just what the frustrations are, but what the benefits are to the students who might not necessarily think science is their thing. So, and I will echo specifically, I was on the board in 2004 when this was adopted. We were a much smaller school district back then, and it might not be that it's the proper thing to do anymore, but it was for this reason. We don't have enough science in school as it is. We just don't. Mm-hmm. This was an opportunity to try to ensure that we were going to have more opportunities for science. What I'd like to see us do is something to consider is right now we send math kids to the high school when they start showing some advanced levels, and I'm wondering why we can't start looking to that for science, because we don't have the same tools at the elementary school sites that we would at the high school for them to be able to use. We don't have Bunsen burners and all the rest of that stuff, that kind of cool stuff that they would get to use, and I'd like to see us try to provide that kind of an opportunity.
So if I can kind of try to provide unless there's a comment.
I have a question, clarifying question. Your comment that, we follow the county rules because the county says, and I wanted to make sure I understood. So the county says that if you don't have mandatory science fair for 4th through 8th grade.
No, county doesn't say that. What county says is K3 or K2 actually now do class projects, and 4th through 8th grade can do individual and group. They do not say to a school or a school district, you must have every single child compete. They don't say that.
Okay.
That is a past practice, I believe, from 2004, 2005.
That's what I heard you say, and so I was wrong.
So we usually follow that piece about opting out, because that's what we have been following.
So there are a number of factors that are being considered right now. So to honor the questions of our student trustee, there's kind of the states' rights versus the federal government approach, which is in response to, we were small, we did it at one school, we did it well at a time where it was a priority. Over time, you build 4 more schools, or actually with 2 schools. So now you build 2 more elementary schools and you grow by hundreds and hundreds of kids. The people who were here that were passionate at that time, who held it together, have stayed, and some have moved on, and then you add 100 new teachers. So I think part of it is what's the cost-benefit analysis? The states' rights versus federal government is, should that be a school-based decision? If it is, how do they own it? versus a district expectation versus a policy, a have to. And then the third piece that's being analyzed right now is, if we're committing to something, why are we doing it in a way that is being passed on to the parents that's not really what the essence of the whole thing was in the first place? So I want to, Dr. Gill's taken one for the team here a little bit. She's speaking to a lot of past history. And I also want to point out that when I first arrived, we worked on this to tighten it up then. And the tighten up isn't quite meeting the standard either. So we have to decide, if we're going to do it, let's do it right.
Okay.
If we're going to loosen up the rules, let us do some work, and we'll come back and make some recommendations. But in the end, if the science fair becomes something that parents loathe, I don't think that's the purpose or function of the science fair.
I hate it. I think we're there already.
Yeah.
I just, that's a constant.
So what we have done is, just to give you a little bit of history, I remember in 2014 we had some parents who came and shared concerns. We went back actually to some of our really good, our teachers do a really good job, the teachers so we went to some of the teachers and said, you are like one of those teachers who do a really good job. Can you show us exactly what do you do? So one of our teachers actually put this guide together. Really literally walking through, it's like a science fair guide to every single step, saying what should be in there, how you teach scientific method, the guidelines, the timelines, every single thing in it. Then we trained our site administrators, trained our science fair reps, said make sure we follow that. We have been reinforcing that at the school sites, but that doesn't mean every single thing is being done this way. And then, other pieces come in too. So I agree with Samantha's point about when the kids go to the high school, they must be prepared. They should know like this, how to write scientific, how to write hypothesis, how to write conclusion, how to write summary. And that is one of the things that's going to help us with NGSS standards, because NGSS standards really focus on creativity. So our science curriculum that's going to help us next, which will be through the NGSS standards, this will be our focus. Not necessarily science fair, but scientific method. So the kids who know how to do a lab right by the time they go to 7th and 8th grade or high school.
So as we're studying this, I will assume that we will be including teacher input into these decisions, and not just the teachers that are really into the science fair and doing all these activities in their classroom. I think we need to get a breadth of opinions on how to proceed.
Definitely.
And I think we need an understanding of exactly how many hours are being spent working on this at home versus at school. Because that's what I hear the most, is it's just taking up way too much time at home. And that's why the parents have to get involved, is because we're meeting, the deadline's coming, got to get it done, and then they jump in. So we need to do get some good analytics. Did you have further questions, Samantha?
No.
Okay.
So we have more work to do on this.
And a recommendation will be coming forward.
Yes.
Very good.
Samantha, thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into calendar. Our next regular meeting is at Wednesday, March 2nd, and all of our committee dates are listed. Momentarily, we're going to be adjourning to closed session, where we're going to discuss public employee discipline, dismissal, release, complaint, public employee appointment, employment evaluation, superintendent, conference with legal counsel, governing code, sections listed, and conference with real property negotiators.
So before we adjourn, I'd like to just read something from the calendar for those in our community that are watching online. Again, we do have our recruitment fair this Saturday at the high school, starting at 8:30 a.m.
I move we adjourn to closed session. Oh, I'm sorry.
And now Sharon stole my thunder a little bit, because I was going to bring that up as well.
You can talk about the wellness fair that's going on at the same time.
True, the wellness fair will be going on concurrently with the recruitment fair. Another thing I wanted to bring up for the board and superintendent and anybody else out there that's interested, the Lammersville School Foundation auction dinner dance fundraiser is coming up March 5th, and if anybody is in need of tickets, contact me and I will see that you get hooked up. And I will second your motion.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're now in closed session. Thank you.